Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for coming on this morning. This is our Monday morning training. Today is Monday, June 26th. And today we will be talking about different ways of generating business outside of just working leads. And this is something I feel like you can really add a lot of additional premium just by doing a few little extra things. Leads are great, but this is just kind of more than just working leads, kind of in addition to just working leads. So let's go ahead and get started here. All right. And then for those of you who have yet to sign up for my weekly trainings, check it out. AdamBrsan.com. Just all you got to do, plug in your name and email address and sign up, and you'll receive weekly updates as far as what the next topic is going to be for the following week. If you're looking for new opportunities, check out Unity Life Group. I'm the owner of Unity Life Group. And again, for those who are new, I mean, I've actually been in the business for about 20 years, started my own agency now about 6 months ago, was primarily working with another company full time and another one before that. So, but we got some good things going. We have a great lead program for in-home sales and also telesales. And I have a lead financing program set up too, where agents don't even have to worry about paying upfront for leads. I mean, talk about a good situation to be in. You don't even have to pay for the lead until you make the sale. So any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. Of course, we have our weekly trainings and, a lot of room to build and grow with us. I mean, we start you at a very nice comp with a lot of room to bring people on under you if that's something that you desire to do. We're working with multiple carriers now. I think it's a great way to do this where nobody is left behind. I mean, we're able to insure about 99% of the people that we meet with. So, as I mentioned, good contracts available. Reach out if it's something that you'd be interested in. Additional training, check out adambrsan.com/training and youtube.com/C/Adam Brsan for all of my different videos. I put all of my weekly trainings on there. So, and I've been getting better at getting them loaded pretty quickly. So the one today, more than likely, it'll probably be on by a little bit later this afternoon. So you can always go back and get a little refresher, watch it over again. And that's what it's there for, just to help you get better. So like I mentioned, we're going to talk today about just creating activity. 50% of the population doesn't have any insurance or enough insurance to pay for their funeral services. And we all know that everybody's going to die. Unfortunately, we're not going to live forever. And the great thing is that we are able to insure about 99% of the population. There's not many people that we cannot help get coverage. You got to be in pretty bad shape to not be able to get a policy. So that's where that opportunity is just wide open when it comes to finding people to write business on. So let's talk about leads. Leads are very simple. They're clients who responded to a mailer, or maybe they filled out a form on the internet, maybe on Facebook. Maybe they received a call from a telemarketer and they had expressed interest in receiving some information. Any sort of lead like that, I kind of look at as a building block for your business. And it's really the number one method to generate business. You got to have a steady flow of leads. So this presentation is not for someone who's trying to generate business without working leads. You got to have leads first. I look at leads as like dinner, and everything else we're going to be talking about today is dessert. It's just a little bit after dinner. You still want a little bit more, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But without leads, most agents wouldn't be able to work the other methods that we're going to be talking about today to generate business. Leads are what get you out in the field to go and see people. And they put you in the areas where there's a lot of people that are in the same situation. I mean, it doesn't really matter where you live. basically wherever you live, majority of the people around you are in the same group, I guess, financially or close to it. So if you're in one of those neighborhoods, well, and somebody had responded to something regarding final expense insurance, there's a good chance that there's other people within that neighborhood that could use your help as well. So, and we'll get to that. We'll be talking about that as well. So Unity Life Group, as I mentioned, we do provide lead financing to agents to help pay for the lead costs. I mean, leads aren't cheap. Sometimes I know people are coming from other situations where maybe they weren't successful, unfortunately, and maybe they just don't have a whole lot of money to get started. And I've seen that where, maybe the person's highly motivated, but they just they just haven't been in the right situation, and they haven't done well, and maybe they just needed a little bit more training and a little bit more support, but they're motivated. So that's where, we do have the lead financing available, where when you write business, that's how your leads are going to be paid for. Half of your commission will go towards your lead balance until it's paid off. And this should be accomplished each week if you are writing enough business. So now my lead financing program, it's primarily for field sales. In my opinion, telesales, you can just go through leads very, very quickly. So I think, at least for me, for the time being, the safer bet is just to focus on the field sales with the lead finance. And so, like I mentioned earlier, reach out if you have any questions about that. I'd be happy to discuss it with you. And then referrals, of course, one thing, and, and these are just the general things. We're going to get to some others that are a little bit more creative here in a few minutes, but, referrals, well, I mean, referrals are going to make up for the people that slam the door in your face. That's kind of how I look at it, because you're out there working and you're running leads, and you're not going to get in every house. But the way to make up for those mean and nasty people that wouldn't give you the time of day is to get referrals from those people that were willing to help you. And there's multiple ways of getting referrals. And this is kind of my way to do it. One way, just by solidifying the policy that you just wrote. And real simple, Mrs. Jones, you might wonder how I get paid. Whether she does or she doesn't, I'm going to tell her. Well, I do get paid a commission by you taking out this policy and keeping it in force. So I'm glad you're serious about your decision today. And, I also get paid by you giving me names of 5 people who not necessarily want to take out a policy, but would at least like to hear about what we talked about today. And, my reasoning behind why I present it that way to the client, I just helped them with something that they felt they really needed. And they're real happy that I was able to help them. And sometimes it seems like they might be more willing to help me if they know that I'm actually going to get something out of it, rather than just giving me some names. If they know that you're going to get paid just by me giving you some names, sure, I'll give you some names, and they'll be willing to help me. Another way that you can ask for a referral that I've used that has really worked as well is I always ask them, now, who do you know where if they were to pass away, it could affect you and your other family members financially? Meaning, if they were to pass away, there's a real good chance you're going to have to help pay to pitch in for their funeral expenses. Anybody that you know where you feel like that could be the case, you need to let me talk to them. That's going to help protect you as well from having to pay for future people's funerals. So, and again, just pull out a piece of paper, number it 1 to 5, and just start getting names from them. And then have the client call that person while you're there and offer to see them the same day. Again, more than likely, they probably live in that area. And if not, I mean, you can always set up an appointment for later, but there's a much better chance that they're going to pick up the phone if it's somebody that they know calling them. I mean, these days, people, they screen their calls. They don't answer the phone if they don't recognize a number. right away they think it's a telemarketer calling them half the time before you can even get a word in. So have the client call them. They already know the person. They already have that number stored in their phone. There's a much better chance that they're going to answer, and try to get in that same day while it's top of mind. And, like I said, I mean, I say it all the time. Well, where do they live? I actually have a few minutes between my next stop, before my next stop. And a lot of times they'll get on the phone, they'll call. And now if they give you 5 names, I usually always ask them who should I call first, or who should I reach out to second if we can't get a hold of the people then and there. But like, let's say that it's a son or daughter that they want me to reach out with. When I call them, I always say, your mom told me I have to come see you. And if you put it that way, there's a real good chance that they will let you come by. If they know that their mom told me that I had to come see them, they know they could get in big trouble if they don't let me come by. If mom wants me to come talk to them. So, just another little tip there to help you maybe get some appointments out of the referrals. Like I said, they're free leads. And if you are not asking for referrals, you're walking away from a lot of sales, because there's a lot of business that can be written there, and leads aren't cheap. And again, we talked a little bit about the lead financing, and the best way to make sure that you write enough business to receive your full commissions, if you're on the lead financing program, is to get the most out of it by doing all these little extra things that we're talking about today, including the referrals. New policy delivery and review. This is something I actually learned from one of my old colleagues, that he was doing this with some of his agents, and I really liked it. It was actually one of my managers that was working under me. And, they were testing this, and it was working really well. Basically, the way that it works, the client will receive their policy 1 to 2 weeks after the application sign date. So you wrote the app, they're waiting for their policy in the mail. And when you're wrapping up your initial visit with them, let them know that you will be contacting them once their policy is delivered. And that gives you a second opportunity to see your client and solidify their decision. So not only can it help you maybe write some additional business, but it can also help with solidifying the initial sale. The trust maybe, of course, was there enough when you were there the first time because they took out that policy with you, but they still want to make sure that everything is legit. They want to make sure that they get a policy. Once that payment comes out of their bank and then they get that policy, then they know that everything that you told them was true. So now, now they may be willing to do more business with you. And so when you go back and when you review their policy, make sure all their information is correct, their name, their address. I mean, heck, it's so funny, 30 days after you wrote the policy, they might want to change their beneficiary already. So verify their beneficiaries with them, make sure the social's correct, and then let them know that they were pre-approved for a higher face amount. So, let's say you wrote them a $15,000 policy on the initial visit. I just wanted to let you know you were pre-approved for $35,000. And, do you want to take care of that today? But this will give you another shot at that higher premium by going back. And if they want the additional coverage, it's very simple to get that issued within the first 30 days. When you write that business with with the different carriers out there, usually you can just call in, and if anything, you might need to just amend the original application. The client might just need to re-sign with a new date, and then they can fix it with the higher premium and the larger face amount. So I kind of talked about this on the last slide. I know we looked at other options when we first met. I just wanted to let you know that you were pre-approved for up to $35,000. There's even some carriers now that go up to $50,000. It would only add $46 to your premium for an additional $10,000 in coverage. Would you like to do that while I'm here? And when we were testing this last year, we found that agents were averaging writing an additional 2 out of every 5 policies that they wrote. So just by going back to 5 people, they're writing 2 additional policies. I mean, heck, right there, that could be anywhere from $600 to maybe $1,500 in additional premium just by going back. And like I said, these are the little things that where you're going to get the most out of your leads. Leads are what are starting this whole thing. But then from there, I mean, that's how we're able to go back and write the additional business. All right, let's talk about going hunting. And what I mean by that, we can insure 99% of the clients that we sit with, and disabled clients are another avenue that we can work. Often if an agent from another company sees a wheelchair ramp, a handicap parking sign, even like an oxygen and use sign, they might turn around because they know that their underwriting won't issue a policy. And for our agents, this is a huge opportunity. I mean, most of the time too, the disabled clients, they have 0 or very poor life insurance plans. They might not even think that they can get covered. I mean, I've seen that a lot. I mean, people, they might run to somewhere like State Farm to take out a life insurance policy. I mean, a place like that, boy, their underwriting is going to be a lot tougher than other companies out there. And I mean, they specialize more in like the property and casualty and stuff. It's not really their niche, their specialty. I mean, I've seen people that are diabetic get declined with State Farm. So sometimes people just have that in their mind that no one's going to insure them. And they might not even have a condition that's that serious. And we can still help them. But just little things like that, you're driving around, maybe you're walking up to a house and you see next door to that house, there's a wheelchair ramp or an oxygen and use sign. Why not stop by? Hi, I'm Adam, the benefits coordinator licensed with the state of Illinois. And I was in the area showing disabled members of the community the benefits that they may qualify for. Has anyone been by yet to help you? And they're more than likely going to say no. Well, I do apologize. It only takes a few minutes to go over the benefits and leave the information with you. Where can we sit down? And by having multiple carrier options, you'll find that most disabled clients will qualify for either a modified death benefit, and depending on their condition, some may even qualify for first day coverage with some of the carriers. So, once you help a disabled client, you'll find that they know other people too that you might be able to help. So, don't ignore that either. Like I said, just little things like that. I mean, again, just a little thing. Not many people are going to think about doing when they're out in the field, but you just never know. The 3-foot rule, and what basically marketing yourself is the key to your success. Your business card is one of the most underutilized tools for getting new clients. So wherever you go, people should know what you do. Whether you're at the bank or grabbing lunch at the gas station, waiting in line at the grocery store, you just got to go up to people, say hello to the person within 3 feet of you. Introduce yourself, hand them your card, let them know what you do. I mean, what does it hurt by telling people what you do? And you never know who was just looking for insurance. And, as we mentioned, statistically, 1 out of 2 people do not have enough insurance to take care of their funeral service. So remember to just say hello to 10 people. Just imagine going up to 10 people every day while you're out in the field. Maybe you stop at the store. Maybe you had to run some errands on your way home after running leads all day. But wherever you're at, let people know what you do. Hand your card out. And you'll be surprised what you find out. And again, as it says here, this is that Wayne Gretzky quote: "We miss 100% of the shots we never take." Same thing with that last slide, talking about the wheelchair ramps and the oxygen and use signs. I mean, how many people are just going to walk past something, a house like that, not do anything? But what's the worst thing that could happen by you knocking on that person's door? They tell you no, not interested. But if they let you in, well, heck, now you got a 50-50 chance of doing something with them. I mean, you have a chance of making at least $500 just by knocking on that door. We know you're not going to make the sale if you don't do that. And then let's see, I had a question too, I think about that one about the going back and writing the additional coverage within the 30 days. Yeah, within the 30 days, you shouldn't have to write a brand new policy. They shouldn't have to pay an additional policy fee. If anything, you could just call into the company, let them know what you're wanting to do. And every company might be a little bit different with their instructions on how to do so, but you should be able to get that initial policy amended with a larger face amount and a higher premium, where then, and a lot of times you don't even have to go back through the health questions because it was within 30 days. So, but yeah, that's a good question. Thanks. The nosy neighbor. This is something too. I mean, it can get frustrating. I know when you're knocking on doors, you're running leads and the people just never answer. I mean, you might even know that they're home. You can hear people shuffling around, but nobody comes to the door. They don't answer their phone. If you do try calling them, if you have repeatedly stopped by a lead without meeting them face to face, another way of gathering information is to talk to the neighbors across the street or next door. Knock on the door, introduce yourself. My name is Adam, and I'm the benefit coordinator for this area. I've been trying to reach Ms. Johnson across the street several times and have not been able to catch up with her. I'm just concerned if she's okay. Have you seen her recently? And I did this a few weeks ago. I had a lead. I mean, there was a lady sitting out on the front porch across the street. And, I told the lady, I said, I keep coming by here, and I mean, it doesn't really look like anybody lives here anymore. And she said, you're right. They moved out a couple months ago. So, but at least then I know that it's a vacant house. I don't have to waste my time going back there. And I just need to try to figure out where she moved to, maybe find an updated phone number to get in touch with her. But then I asked her, I explained to her what I was doing out there. And I said, hey, do you have any coverage right now? Because if not, I'd be happy to sit down and go over this with you. And she did. She was covered. So, I didn't get anywhere there with her, but that's not every time you ask. Again, it doesn't hurt to ask. Just by asking, there's a good chance you got that 50-50 shot of actually doing something with them. So, and, again, you'll be amazed by the information that you are able to gather. And once you do gather that information, give a business card to the neighbor. And as I mentioned, let them know that you're in the area taking care of everyone's final expense needs. And if they need your help, before you leave the area, you'd be happy to come by. And again, it's a numbers game. You will be amazed by how many people say we were just talking about that. Current policyholders. So we did talk a little bit earlier about, going back within 30 days. This is more like doing annual reviews. One of the biggest mistakes we make as agents is not contacting service or reviewing our current policyholders. One thing I always teach agents is that we get paid renewals, and we don't just get paid renewals because the company's like, thank you for writing that piece of business. We're just going to pay you forever on it. The company expects you to service your clients. You're getting paid to service your clients and to keep that business on the books and maybe even write additional coverage. So I think it really needs to be part of your job to go back once a year, at least. And, you can always print out lead cards of your current policyholders. I can even teach you how to do that one of these days if you need to learn how to do that. Often we have underinsured them in the beginning because we just wanted to make sure that they had some coverage. We wanted to make sure that it was affordable for them. And if they are younger, they are subject to increasing funeral costs. 20 or 30 years from now, they may not have enough to pay for a plot, opening and closing, vault, marker. And, with inflation, everything is going to continue to go up. And I always, my initial visit, I'm always primarily just focusing on the immediate need. As I mentioned, if you didn't see my training last week, go back and watch it. It's on YouTube. It's my presentation that I've been using for years. And I talk a lot about the immediate need. I want to make sure if they die tomorrow that their funeral is paid for, but I also want to make sure that they can afford to keep this. So I would rather just write them enough for right now, assuring that they can handle paying it for a year. I can always go back and write them a little bit more next year. And again, maybe that's why my persistency, as I mentioned last week, has always hung around 90%, because I'm not overselling. I'm making sure they have enough, but I'm keeping it affordable for them. And as I mentioned, we can always go back. So, another thing too, the client, they may have just retired. They may have lost some benefits that they had on the job, a lot of these group term policies through their work, and now they need more coverage. They want to make sure that their family is taken care of. And that's where you just never know what the situation is. But by going back in 12 months, there's going to be a good chance that there's going to be some additional business that can be written there. And you don't know who else is in the home. I mean, you might show up and your client, her sister's over, or other relatives. You might be able to write additional business on other people while you're there. I mean, you're the insurance man that helped a year ago. As I mentioned, the trust is there. Everything was true that you told them. And now they want to do more business with you, and they may recommend you to other people. So, but the point is, if you don't stay in touch with your clients, another insurance company or another insurance agent will. Unfortunately, these lead cards that people get in the mail, they fill them out more than once, even if they just took out a policy. I try to tell my clients before I leave, don't worry about filling out any more of those cards, or you don't need to respond to any more of those Facebook ads. You're taken care of now. But there's a good chance at some point someone's going to get in touch with them. But if you keep up with them, then you're not going to give your client an opportunity to talk with anybody else. So just a few tips on that. Keep records of your clients. One thing that I do, every single application that I write, and every carrier is different when it comes to how you can, download the apps. But most of these e-apps these days, you can download a PDF version of it when you're done, once it's completed. And then you can save a PDF copy of that application. I always save the file name as the person's last name, and then comma, and then their first name. And then I put it in a clients folder based on the company that it's with. But then when I have a client that calls me, all I got to do is search for their name, and I can find their application that I initially wrote. And a good portion of their information is right there, where I don't even have to contact a company to ask them for my client's information. And I'd recommend to store that information either like on a Google Drive or Dropbox, or like the iCloud is what I use. What I like about that, I can look up my client's information on my computer, on my iPad, on my phone. So it's easily accessible. But yeah, visit your clients once a year to do these policy reviews. I think it's also good to send them a birthday card or other holiday cards. As I mentioned, I always like to do things a little bit different. I might not send a Christmas card, but I might send a Thanksgiving card, or I might send an Easter card. Who else is getting a card at Thanksgiving or at Easter? And when their whole family's over at Thanksgiving, they might see that card sitting there on the table, and other people might be asking about it. And then, magnetic business cards are good too. You can order those pre-made, or if you go to like office supply store, you can usually just buy like the magnets, and you can stick your business card right on it. And when you're in the person's home, give them the magnetic business card. They can put it on their fridge, and then you're always right there looking at them. So, staring them in the face when they're getting something out of the fridge. They ever have any questions, at least your information is right there for them. And then download the funeral cost inflation chart. That's something, if you want it, I could actually email it to you. My training website is still kind of in the process of being under some construction, but it's something that I put together that I'll show you now. This is what I use when I go back to the client after a year or so. And what this is, it's a chart that shows what the average funeral costs was in the year 2021 and on. And it's based on an average inflation rate of 4.02%. That's what the average inflation rate was between 1972 and the year 2022. And then I have a 6% inflation rate that I put together. And then, I had 8% because that's where the inflation at least was, I know, for a while. I had to take it off of here because, boy, it was scary to see at 8% inflation how much these funeral prices would be going up. I think it would almost freak the clients out a little bit, too much. So I dropped it back down to 6%. But we started at the year 2021 and we kind of moved on from there. So anyways, what I do with this chart, and this is average funeral costs for burial. When I go back, as I mentioned, I review their policy, I review their beneficiaries, I review their face amount with them. So Mrs. Jones, now you're 65 years old now. And I mean, you're probably going to live to be at least 85 years old, don't you think? And they always say, yeah, oh yeah, I'm probably going to live forever. Well, I mean, you're 65 now, you live to be 85. I mean, heck, in the year 2043, the average cost for a funeral at 4% inflation is going to be over $25,000. And if we're at 6% inflation, you're looking at almost $39,000 to be buried in 20 years. So, Mrs. Jones, it's great that you got the $10,000 policy, and I think that should be enough for right now. But what happens when you live another 20 years, like you just told me you were going to? I don't think you're going to have enough coverage. So we need to add some coverage on, don't you think? And it's really eye-opening, I think, to the client, because again, on the initial visit, they're really just focusing on right now, making sure they have enough if they were to die tomorrow. But once you show this to them, they're like, wow, yeah, I didn't even think about that. And the numbers, to be quite honest, are pretty accurate. I mean, when I got in the business in 2003, you could be buried for about $6,000, $5,000 or $6,000, and now it's double that. So in another 20 years, it's more than likely going to double again. So yeah, like I said, this is a very useful tool for those that are going back and doing those policy reviews once a year to kind of show this to the client. And it's more of like a visual thing too. I mean, it's one thing if you explain it to them, but when you're showing it to them, that's when the numbers really pop out and really, makes them want to act on doing something. So like I mentioned, if you want a copy of it, let me know. I'd be happy to get this over to you. Group presentations and events. If you have a lead who lives in, a high-rise apartment building or a senior community, go down and ask to speak to the building manager or the event coordinator and see if you could schedule a time to educate the residents. It's a great way to reach a number of people all at once. And if you can schedule an event, be sure to pass out flyers. I mean, all these different companies have marketing materials you can hand out. Some of them, if you let them know that you're having a meeting, they might even send you some goodies to hand out to people, water bottles and keychains and calendars, things like that. And then what I always recommend to do is to purchase like a $25 gift card to maybe like a local restaurant or like a grocery store, and have something where the person can fill in their information, like their name, their address, their phone number, and that's their raffle ticket. And so you raffle off this gift card. And then what you also did is you just created a whole bunch of leads of the people that are in that building. Now you got all their information. And see, a lot of agents think that when you go to that group presentation, like people are just going to be lining up to take out a policy with you. And that really isn't the case. I mean, you might get a few people that would be interested in maybe doing business with you that day, but you're going to get the most out of doing a group presentation by creating these additional leads and then going back to the building. And you can even, my dad has even done this in the past. He's in the business, kind of got me going back, over 20 years ago now. But, he taught me too, you want to make yourself out to be the insurance man for that building where like someone else comes in that building that sells insurance and they're like, oh no, we already got our guy. We already have our guy who comes and does that for us. Cause you can do a presentation there more than once. But I mean, my dad will even, stop at like Dunkin' Donuts and he'll pick up a dozen donuts and he'll walk over to the building. Someone will let you in when you're holding a dozen donuts in your hand, and he'll put them like in maybe like a central area of the building where a lot of people congregate to. And he will, and he'll, sorry, something just popped up on my computer, and he'll put a little note next to it. Thank you so much for letting me help the residents in here with all of your life insurance and final expense needs for burial, whatever. Just a little note like that with some business cards, and he'll get phone calls from people. So again, you make yourself out to be the insurance man while you're in the building. Why not talk to some people? But those are just a few ways that you're going to get the most out of doing some of these group presentations. You can also rent a table at like a flea market. I've even seen some of these different summer fests that go on where you can rent tables where people are just in and out of there all day. You could rent a table with same thing, just like little packets and flyers, and same thing. You could do a raffle at one of those things. I would maybe recommend something like that to maybe bring like some maybe kids with you that can walk around and hand out flyers to people too, and hand out like little raffle cards that we're going to be raffling off a $25 gift card over here later, if anybody's interested. And so again, just other ways of generating some additional leads. And you can check with your local city hall or town hall and get a schedule of all the different senior events that are available each month. Cold door knocking, that's a kind of like the scary one that nobody ever wants to talk about, is cold door knocking. And I'm telling you, boy, if you're over financed in leads, or if you don't have any money to purchase leads, well, sometimes that's like a last resort sort of thing. But you can be successful cold door knocking. The first company that I did final expense business with, the owner at the time, he used to call me about once a month and would always ask me if I was doing any cold door knock. And he'd always say, Adam, the leads are fine. It's good that you're working leads, but you need to try just doing some neighborhood enrollments. He'd call them. You need to knock on some doors and see if you can make some extra sales. And like I mentioned, when you're working a lead and it brings you into the neighborhood where that there's a lot of people that are in that same situation, what does it hurt to go up and down the block and knock on some doors? If people aren't home, you could leave a little packet or a little pamphlet or something. Maybe they'll call you, a little postcard maybe with your information. But again, we miss 100% of the shots that we don't take. And if you pick out a neighborhood where those houses are very close together, I mean, out by me, the Chicagoland area, there's little communities where some of these houses are like 10 feet apart from one another. And that's where you can really get a lot done, where, I mean, it wouldn't even take you that long to go up and down the block back to your car. And we tested this last year and we discovered that every 40 doors that you knock on should equal one sale. And you should be able to knock on about 20 doors an hour. So that means if you're out cold door knocking, and it's a lot of work, it's a lot of exercise. Exercise isn't a bad thing. But 20 doors in an hour, that would mean that every 2 hours you should be able to make a sale. And that's not bad if you're consistent. And it might not all happen at once, but you might generate some leads from those people too that want you to come back and talk to them. And it's so funny because I've done this in the past too. And you think that people are going to be defensive and they're not going to want to talk to you, but I've seen more of the other side where people are more appreciative that you actually stopped by to let them know what you were doing. I've had people tell me, wow, we just lost a relative and it really got us thinking about this. I can't believe that you're here right now. And those are, that's, when that happens, you feel really good, because who knows, if you hadn't stopped by, there's a chance that maybe they would never do anything. But, knocking 100 doors a day, that's 2.5 sales a day, just cold door knocking. And the reason people don't want to do this is because it's hard. And what I tell people is that if this is a last resort, what's harder? I think being broke is harder. It's between being broke and getting out there and working hard. All it takes is a few sales to get you back into some leads. But you know what? I mean, heck, if you can make 2 to 3 sales every day, just cold door knocking, especially in the summertime when it's nice out, I mean, you could really make this your main focus if you really wanted to, and you could generate a lot of business if you're in the right area. But like I said, a lot of agents, they just don't want to do it because it's hard. 50 weeks out of the year, just cold door knocking, you can make over $400,000 if you run the numbers right. And I'm telling you, back in the day, this owner of first company that I did final expense business with, I mean, he started his own company and they didn't have leads back then. That's all they were doing to generate business, was just cold door knocking, and it worked. So again, if there's a will, there's a way. You can make it happen for sure. And, if you combine the referrals that you can get along with the cold door knocking, I mean, you could generate an additional 12 sales every week just by getting those referrals and some cold door knocks, and 30 free leads. What I'm talking about is the referrals. So even though leads, as I mentioned, are kind of like the name of the game, it could get to the point, if you generate enough referrals, it could get to the point where you're not even going to have to work leads, because you're going to have enough people that you can contact. And I would consider those referrals leads. I mean, it's probably better than just a lead of someone filling out information. This is a referral of someone that you've already done business with, or from somebody that you've already done business with. Another way to generate some business while you're out working, get one of these magnets made. This actually came off of my dad's car. I had them on my car too, but real simple. I mean, I think Vistaprint, any of those places you can get magnets made. Keep it real simple. Life burial insurance with a phone number. I know I had one on the side of my car that said life burial insurance, and then under it said affordable rates with my phone number. And when I'm driving around in the areas and I'm working those leads, you'd be surprised the phone calls that you would get. And that magnet costs about $35. That's about the cost of one lead. And so it's like you're a driving billboard while you're out working, and just more and more people that can reach out to you. So why not? Why not let everyone in the area know what you're out there doing? So like I mentioned, in closing, working leads will always be, in my opinion, the best way to generate business. But if you're fluent in all these other methods of generating business, it is going to make you a much more profitable and successful final expense agent. So that's about all I had for today. Thanks again for hopping on this morning, and feel free to check out a recording of this later on YouTube. And good luck. I hope you have a great week. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks again.